Now our generation would have to face AI, which is artificial intelligence. If you are someone that was, in the line of that assembly, definitely you lose that job. But I think you would evolve into maintaining those arms. So there would be an evolution or a transition on each sector.
AI is coming.
And it's going to change everything about our jobs.
But is it a threat or an opportunity?
We sit down with their Gus.
A tech entrepreneur at the heart of Ethiopia's labor market.
That's next.
On the AGI Podcast.
Studying in Ethiopia and acquiring whatever you acquired in terms of knowledge, is that frustrating when people ask whether or not you studied abroad?
Knowledge doesn't have capital. Knowledge can't be measured with GDP.
Why take?
From the TV games and all these simple consoles to became the kid that kind of helps out with computers. Doing that is, as a private company, it's very crazy to do that, but yes, we're in that business now, and we've been doing it for the past 5 years.
Making money crazy, or crazy as in making a lot of money, but it's still...
I mean, crazy as in like the level of ambition.
How would you measure the pace of change? I sometimes question myself, what is my kid going to be engaged in?
A lot of repetitive and mundane tasks would definitely be automated, as has been for the past years. You are required to have a lot of knowledge. AI has the capacity to do that.
What's next for Kaleab? Kaleab, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, mostly I don't have introductions like this person is coming today to do this and that, and we will be talking about this and the other thing. It's not my style. Yeah. I just want to go directly to the point and talk about the issues that we are here to talk about. So tell us a bit about you.
Well, let's start with my name, I guess.
Yeah.
My name is Kaleab. You can say I'm a technology professional and an entrepreneur.
All right.
I've been doing that for the past 12 years. So I think eloquently you can say that's who I am.
All right.
Yeah.
So a young person from Addis, from Ethiopia. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation, and I'm proud to have this conversation with the young people like yourself. So this is the moment that I like to have this discussion, especially about technology. And why tech?
That's actually a really good question. I mean, technology has always been around, even me as a child, because, most of us in the urban context, at least, started out with, TV games and wondering how they work and that sort of thing. So that's where my kind of keen interest started. So as a kid, I've always wanted to, have experienced the best games and the best video games available out there. And that kind of started the fascination with technology, because I graduated from the TV games and all these simple consoles to utilizing computer to play those games. And then that got me wondering, increasing the capacity of the computer at home. Mm-hmm. And then that started me into, technology. And then I became the kid that kind of helps out with computers eventually at the house. But before, it was me being disallowed to use the computer because I would abuse it. Because I'll play games on it. So that's basically the entry point, and I've always been curious. In terms of education though, like right after the matric examination or the national examination, since my mom always wanted me to be a doctor, of course, and my name is Kaleab, so she always wanted me to be called Dr. Kaleab. So that was my first choice was medicine. Unfortunately, I didn't cut it through the points because I think I got 483, and the entry was I think 490 at that time, so I just missed it for 3 points.
Wow!
But it turned out to be for a good kind of thing, and then I got my second choice, which was computer science. So yeah, that's generally it. I mean, I got interested to computers through games and kind of fiddling with computers to kind of be able to play better games, like increasing the RAMs of the computer, hard drives and that sort of thing. And that's where, where the interest generally stems.
All right. I would imagine you to become an artist yourself because I know about your dad and he's an artist and you grew up assisting him and watching him do what he does best.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that world being a world of immersion. You would like every part of it because people would come around, hang out with your dad and listen to their conversations.
Yeah.
I would imagine you actually going to that direction than the direction that you took, the route that you took, and the professional that you are today. That's why I asked you the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually, a good narrative, but unfortunately, my dad doesn't really force us, or like didn't really push the narrative of us following the footsteps of what he's doing. I think that's why we kind of chose what we chose as siblings as well. I have 2 sisters. But my relationship with my dad is pretty close, and as close as it is, of course, you would imagine I would take that route. But I guess I didn't, and I think I thank him for it because he didn't have much of an influence. Like, he didn't kind of force us to practice whatever he was working on. He just let us do what we want. The only requirement that he had was for us to be good at school, and that was his only kind of qualifier for us to exist in that realm of being a good student no matter what we do. But it's not lack of influence as well, because you can see it in most of the things that we put out, even in technology. Definitely there's that artistic influence in terms of expression, having more sentimental values as opposed to technical ones. Wow. So all of those things, you can definitely see it reflected in my life. Even the furniture that I choose for the office, the way certain things are designed, the way certain interfaces are kind of designed, is generally influenced with that art background. But in terms of like following strictly that art direction, I wouldn't say that took root in my kind of professional kind of endeavors, but it definitely has a reflection, and then there's other ways of me being influenced by it, as opposed to what you would have someone entirely immersed into that world.
Okay. Would you say a school helped you? Your expertise or the profession that you are in today? Because I understand you went to school in Ethiopia, you got everything that you got from this country, and there is a perception that people like yourself have this tendency of maybe the option of going to other places, study abroad, and come back to their country of origin and contribute something after they study abroad. Yeah. You went to school in Ethiopia entirely. Yeah. And you started business in Ethiopia as well. Yeah. So tell me about that journey.
Oh man, it's actually interesting. Yeah, I definitely get that a lot. Like, people would assume that I'm a diaspora of a certain Western nation. I don't know if I would say I'm lucky not to go through that, or haven't. I don't know. I hadn't immigrated to anywhere like for me to become what I am. And of course, no offense to whomever came back to deliver whatever they're working on. Actually, big respect to that. But I mean, here in the technology, I don't know many other sectors, but in the creative sector and also in technology, it's more of a global kind of skill and a global kind of industry. And it's kind of easier for you to kind of excel on that, because it doesn't require in much of communication translations or like context-that kind of definitions. For example, if you're a poet, someone needs to know Amharic for someone to understand what you are working on. But in terms of like visual arts and performing arts, like someone can appreciate a dance or a music because of the melody and all of that. So in a way, I would say that is more global kind of exposure. And I would say the same thing for technology as well, because we have our own syntaxes. And that syntax can be written the same way as you would do in Asia, the same way you would do it in US, and the same way you do it in Addis. And then I think I've mentioned this to you before, and if you did a really good job in any of those, you would surprise enough people for you to be international from wherever you are is what is. And then that has been also my motto, like do good and be great at what you do wherever you are. And then luckily the sector that I chose didn't require any translation for it to look good in any perspective or vision. So in that sense, whatever we did or whatever we put out as a technology product kind of resonated for the development world, meaning the NGOs and the international companies that we work with here in Ethiopia. That kind of translated into the international market that we're currently operating in as well. So in a lot of sense, starting that business was as a journey. Of course, it started from school. At that time, which is in 2010, when I joined computer science, the Addis Ababa University campus, a lot of things were closed off, but a bit of like internet connectivity was being available, and technologies like client server kind of architectures, like achieving something through the internet without the need of like these massive network investments and all of those sort of things were kind of being tried out at that time. And then businesses were also trying out these ways of like automation and in terms of centralizing and growing their business. So people needed websites at that time, and then that's what the market kind of needed. And the technologies that we were learning at that time were better looking and better functioning than the ones that were already at the market, and which was expensive at that time. And us as a student offered better looking kind of products for a very cheap price. and that kind of helped us acquire a few clients here and there. And like you said early on, people that came and spoke to my dad were, of business people. And then I kind of leveraged that for me to acquire, our clients as well, because they knew me in my living space, and then they knew where my background was. So it was an easier way to build trust. And I kind of leveraged that to kind of acquire our first clients, even back when we were like third year and fourth year kind of students. So, fast track that into, a year of us starting a business. It was like our prices were starting to get a bit higher than what we used to be as a student. So we were kind of asked to offer a commercial receipt, which was kind of their requirement to kind of write it off as a tax at that time. This kind of led us to, establishing it and making it a business as partners. And then we started out with 3 friends, college friends, me, Barakat, and Mike. Barakat's unfortunately not with us, but Mike is still here as my partner of 12 years so far. And that's basically how it came to be, like us, joining school and then eventually understanding what the market needs and then aligning ourselves in that direction. And that's the kind of pipeline I would draw for you.
All right. I want us to dwell on the point of you studying in Ethiopia and acquiring whatever you acquired in terms of knowledge and professional experience, then actually working in Ethiopia and the stereotype attached to it. You have international clients, be it organizations or maybe companies that are small scale. You meet with people from across the world.
Yeah.
It's not only Ethiopians that you meet and you work with. So whenever people, I had a guest here, this guy studied in Ethiopia and functioning well in the setting of this country, Ethiopia. And he happened to go to the US, and he is really well educated, and everybody assumed that he studied in the US. So that stereotype is what I wanted to talk about, because I see the similarity, or I see some kind of resemblance in terms of acquiring, getting the knowledge, and after that practicing the profession itself and being really good at it.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? And is that frustrating when people ask whether or not you studied abroad? Because I know, I understand that they have the understanding whoever studies in Ethiopia is of a mediocre background. And that person would give off an energy of intimidation and lack of confidence and things of that nature most of the times. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, these things are definitely here. Like here, and I don't think it's also unique to Ethiopia. I think it's kind of synonymous with any diaspora community.
All right.
I wouldn't call this, I don't know, self-hate or any, like, I really don't have any kind of label to it. But what I would definitely insinuate in general would be, yes, there are these types of notions, but for me, this kind of stem from lack of understanding of the capacity of the nation in general. And someone that hasn't went to the university and actually have experienced the level of thinking and the level of quality of education that exists in our universities and the people that teach there, because my father is one of them, I would definitely say, it's something that would change their perspective. So I kind of credit this, at least 80 to 75% of it, into lack of understanding of our education structures, no matter how limited it could be. And then the focus of quality in the past 40 years hasn't been the best, which I agree. And they also have a point in terms of the breadth and the capacity of the Western world education capacity. Definitely, it's not something comparable, because you wouldn't compare any Western world with any African nation. So that would be illogical to do. But also assuming the education would be less of quality of there is also justified in that sense. So it's I'm playing the devil's advocate here. Like,
Wow.
I understand where that kind of coming from, and also I understand this kind of mindset would persist because of lack of understanding of what really goes on here in Ethiopia. So I mean, historically, even like Ethiopia is the first for a lot of things, like for literal kind of literatures, and also writings, scriptures, manuscripts, kind of sourced from a lot of Ethiopian ancient kind of context and understanding. So having that, you can choose to look at it that way, or you can choose to look at it the other way that I explained. They're richer, they're more advanced, and therefore their education would be better, would be the rational conclusion. But you can also say, homegrown and indigenous understanding of any concept, really, be it foreign or locally kind of understood, because we also have local medicine, no?
Yeah.
We just happen to call it traditional.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's definitely scientific nuance to it. And every knowledge that the Western has got also kind of stemmed from the church, right? It's actually well documented in history, because libraries were built and maintained by churches at this time. And we had the same thing. And what I'm saying is, one can have a similar perspective, but the latter is a rather simpler way of looking at it. Like, we're richer, we're better, so therefore our education would be better, is kind of a simplistic way of looking at things. But in a more deeper and more granular understanding of what education, what knowledge is in general, I would say there's more to any African nation, let alone Ethiopia, to offer. So in terms of that educational gap, you're only as good as the amount of time and the amount of energy that you spend on any knowledge, really, because the education that you receive here, anywhere really, would give you a foundation of understanding. Some would do a better job at it, but some may not, and really depends on who's teaching you as well. And education primarily offers you a foundation to build from. So that foundation, you can steer it in any direction that you want as an individual. So what I would say is, yes, that exists. My perspective is balanced in both ways. But education would always offer a foundation for something. That's why most of the great people are dropouts in our sector, right? And that is, I think, understanding the foundation where they should kind of work on, because they didn't leave illiterate. They have that foundation, and then they had enough, and then they kind of figured out where to build from. Some people figure that out early on. Some people would need education up to PhD for them to kind of find that foundation to build on. And some would just need a degree, and some may not even need it, because knowledge is not bounded by education, because education is I think a structured way of approaching knowledge, right? Where you have to conform to, a certain set of guidelines and like progression and qualification models. But knowledge is different. So what I would say is, knowledge doesn't have capital. The knowledge can't be measured with GDP. So knowledge can be, like I said, you can find a foundation from education or any kind of book that you read. So it really is good to differentiate between knowledge and education. So that would be my kind of response to it.
Great. I just want to stay there, because
Sure.
I like where it is going, and the momentum is really flawless.
Yeah.
So the thing that you mentioned about the education system in the West and the education that we have in Ethiopia, the structure of it in general, and how it is practiced in this part of the world and how it is practiced in that part of the world. And you mentioned people in your sector, your ecosystem dropping out, and some pursue to get a PhD.
Yeah.
And I kind of understood it to be the ones that are pursuing to get a PhD are not really sure whether or not they know a thing or something about what they are following. Is that what it means?
No. Like, in a sense, that what I'm saying is, like, like for you to do something in life, you need to have that understanding, and that I called it knowledge. And then education is a formal and a structured way. Some people would stay on until PhD, until they find that foundation for them to work on, because someone's vision could be a teacher. And then for you to teach, I think the PhD way, and also conforming to the traditional or the standardized education format for you to acquire that knowledge should be your direction, or would be your direction, depending on what you want as an outcome from that understanding or from that realm of knowledge. But what I'm saying is, some people will just find that foundation even in elementary schools. And if you figure out what you wanted to do, and then you understand the basics of it and where to build from, you may not need to progress in that structured manner that either the Western world kind of invented, or even any traditional, because we also have traditional education systems, right?
Absolutely.
We have in Islam we have the madrasas, and we have in Ethiopia we have Sunday schools, which may not necessarily be of divine studies. Like these are like formal literate kind of educations, because you learn about letters, you learn about composing sentences and all of that. So what I'm saying is, you can conform to any education structure that you see fit, and then of value to what you want to build. But what I'm saying is that only offers a foundation. One could teach you on how to draw a straight line in art school and ways to do it. But where that straight line in your mind or in your art piece go is dictated by you, is what I'm saying. So that's kind of the foundation I'm talking about. So some people would need, explicit details on how to draw that line, and some people just get the gist of it from that education and then start placing their straight lines wherever their art piece would go, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So in that sense, like I said, it's a very shallow of measuring a knowledge with GDP and where you came from. Is I think it does it disservice of knowledge, because knowledge didn't start from economy. Actually, the vice versa. Economy started from knowledge. So most of the philosophers that we learned about, even in the Western world, even in the East, It was just simple individuals that just chose to think about stuff. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
So what I'm saying is like you can source your foundation in any level of education structure that you chose, be it traditional, be it formal.
I don't know if it is the confirmation bias in me getting excited about the whole thing that you're saying, or the point being very smart point that I'm agreeing with, but that is so true. But I just want to challenge you with something, or I just want you to tell me if it is correct. I assume, and I heard this from Elon Musk. I don't know the sentence verbatim, but it was along the lines of this: education is something that you soldier through, or you develop your discipline, like a soldier or something like that. Can you assume, or can we say that we go to schools and we learn just to learn the discipline, especially now in the times of AI and all the democratization of knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, like you need to define discipline, like discipline in terms of like contributing to the world as we live in now, like waking up in the morning and contributing, going somewhere and stuff. In that sense, I generally don't know because I'm not in education, nor is it my expertise. But in terms of foundation, to my point, what I talked about is like even learning to read and write so that you have something in common, or to learn from someone that's not there, is at least you need to know to read and write, right? So I'm taking you back to the basics so that I don't overcomplicate what I'm talking about, So these are the basics that I'm talking about. And every profession, there is these basics. So, unless you understand about chemistry and how batteries work, it really is hard for someone to teach you on how to manufacture batteries for electric cars. So what I'm saying is these foundational knowledges kind of exist in every sector, whether we like it or not. So education, in my view, is to offer you that foundational kind of understanding where you can actually evolve and contribute based on your thinking and analysis and real world experience to kind of evolve from, is what I'm saying. So did they design it for us to conform to in a certain world order or direction? Who knows? But what I understood from my experience, though limited as it may be, of course, is one should extract foundations of whomever and whatever they may be in terms of professional direction from their education. So education is very essential in giving you and I at least giving you the do's and don'ts of a specific boundaries. Of course, that is also questionable because most people came with innovations by questioning that. But in order for you to have something to even question, is you need to be in that educational like structural kind of education thing. So I don't know if I took this very way out of point, but my whole point is we need to avoid this simplistic understanding of knowledge of saying like, oh no, you're educated in the US, therefore you're good, and you're educated in Ethiopia, and therefore you may not be as good. Is a very shallow kind of perspective, and actually says a lot on someone's understanding of what knowledge and what professional contribution to is in any sector, is what I'm saying. So and I'm literally throwing out the scale, is what I'm saying, right? Because the scale is rigged. The scale shouldn't even exist, is what my arguing point.
I'm thinking as we were discussing this point, I'm thinking the topic for today should have been something related to education and how knowledge is acquired. Than technology and the aspect of technology. But I'm sticking to the points that we'll be discussing today. So let's skip this and go to the point that we're trying to make. Again, fascinating points with regard to technology and labor. Technology and labor, are they related? I don't know.
I mean, at this point, everything's related to technology. I mean, even the entire equipments that we use, even the the technology that is enabling us to do this is part of it. I mean, it all started out with sound engineering and whatever not, but now technology is in it. So in a sense, what I'm saying is technology is everywhere, and we just happen to be we just happen to implement technology in education and labor in labor is what I'm saying, and we happen to be or happen to believe that it would be one of the great drivers of the labor markets of Ethiopia or any developing country as well. And it's there's this concept of like growth hacking, where you would take advantage of something that is being developed through time, where you can have a parallel or at least a similar pedestal with what the current world is. I think technology is the only way that we can go in order for us to have that parallel index with the world. It's basically our way or our cheat sheet for playing catch up. So what I'm saying in so many sense or in different words is, yes, technology is one of the essential aspects of labor in order for you to kind of catch up with what the current world is going about. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect of technology and labor being related is like, in order to advance any knowledge or any sector, technology is playing a vital role. We see it in medicine, we see it in any sector that currently we're working on, even art now. We have a lot of generative AIs that kind of do something similar. I wouldn't say it's art because it's something similar to what an artist would do. So in a way, the second point I'm trying to make is in advancement, in advancing labor capacity of a nation, in advancing the way we harness our labor capacity and even utilize the potential that Ethiopia has with our population. Yes, technology would play a vital role. And I want to also make a third point on enabling as well, like enabling because any sector would have a flow, like a process flow, something starts and ends somewhere. So enabling that and then having less of a friction in terms of automating a lot of the processes that goes on, labor capacitation, development, matching and all those sort of things could also be enabled. So in summary, my 3 points are like, for advancement, of course, you need this. For creating a conducive kind of labor market ecosystem, you need it, and also in general, like having all of this like technology in any sector in terms of making it better or like improving it is kind of where technology and also labor kind of markets kind of collide.
All right. Take me to your company and the aspect of the work that you do in regards to labor and technology. And you've been mentioning points along the lines of actually using technology for labor. And I want to hear the depths of it. I want to hear the nuance that comes in labor and technology relationship.
Sure. I mean, I'm going to take you back with how we started with MinabTech, because I'm CEO and co-founder of HaHu Jobs. I mean, I'm not really fond of stating out positions that are self-offered, because no one gave it to me. No one really gave it to me. I just named myself as so. So let's just talk about the tacit values of each company. So I'll say MinabTech primarily used to work on software development, and I told you how it was founded and how the trajectory kind of worked on, or the trajectory became about. So it became a really good software development agency that we had a really good niche in terms of cloud computing and cloud solutions, anything that has to do with solutions that involved cloud and anything that could be achieved with web apps, mobile apps. We became a really good household name for a lot of brands and companies that really trust our services. So it was kind of a niche kind of market for us. So in this process, we came across this service or a TOR that required us to kind of capture the supply and demand paradigms of the Hawassa Industrial Park. It was a project funded by, I think, the AI that was planning to understand the employing capacity of that industrial park, which started with Hawassa and then later on kind of expanded to Kombolcha one and also the Mekelle one. So our task was to offer a platform that would uniquely identify job seekers, gather them in a pool, and then whenever companies submit a request through the same platform, we allocate them and then follow their recruitment status. It's like definitely the way I said it is simple in terms of achieving, but in order to do that, you need to register them, you need to have standards, you need to uniquely identify them. Where we started capturing biometric for unique identification, because these are rural area people that has little to no government identification in their life, let alone that specific job. So this is one really good example of how technology can enable or facilitate the employment and matching process of a job seeker. So this kind of expanded into a blue collar market, where we saw this data gap, because in so many words, what that project needed was a data to understand what company is employing who and in what rate. And that was not available at that time, because the regional offices were using spreadsheets, which can be changed in any instant, and didn't offer any kind of trend of data. And then everyone kept spreadsheets as they see fit, not not with the required standards. So in that sense, it's a simple thing to request, right? But it really is hard thing to achieve in that sense. So this was true for even at that time when we were doing our assessments. The companies that were publishing vacancies and seeing who applied, who got the job, there is no record of it. It's just they published that vacancy, and then somehow, some way, through emails or something, someone would apply, and that job would be there. And then if you requested those companies, okay, how many vacancies in what sector were being available and stuff, again, there's no data that was available. So we saw this as an opportunity. There was massive amount of lack of data that should have been traced but not being traced, and that gave birth to HaHu Jobs, to what it is now. So we started even aggregating the vacancies that were already out there, because they didn't follow any occupational standard kind of publications. So we gave them categories, positions, sectors, subsectors, and primary identifiers like years of experience required, fields of studies, and all of these things needed to be tagged, but they were put out as a plain text out into the abyss, you would say. And then we were the ones that were making sense of them, and then doing so gave us a massive audience that followed our channel, even though they know they have access to those vacancy information in other contexts, yet they chose HaHu Jobs to kind of follow vacancy details. And then after that, even companies started coming to us and saying, like, we don't even know what HaHu Jobs is, but candidates are coming to us saying they saw our advertisement on HaHu Jobs. Can we advertise it on your platform? Was our value proposition. So definitely you can bank on that, because that's a value. And that's when we started building the platforms that we have now. We have a Telegram bot dedicated for both job seekers and web, for targeting small businesses like boutiques, small cafes that would hire 2 or 3 people per year. And then we have, enterprise solutions for a larger, SaaS model kind of products, where we serve companies as large as, manufacturing companies. I really don't want to say names because this is being recorded, but we have like web kind of solutions for them. And then for job seekers that are, of little to high kind of skills and calibers, there where we will enable them to kind of have CVs and or build and upload their own CVs, apply for vacancies, and then through all of this, capture each and every detail of who is looking for a job and who is looking to employ, and then offering those insights to both, organizations like the World Bank, who does massive amounts of research every single time, and happen to base all of their research with no trend of data, just specific surveys, which kind of blindside to a lot of the interventions that would base their, like you would say, nuances on how to support Ethiopia. So our business model kind of revolves all around that. So that's in a nutshell, I would say that what HaHu Jobs does. But I'm happy to kind of follow through if you have any specific questions.
How did you come up with the name?
That's actually see, I told you about there are sentiments to what I do in terms of that artistic background that I have with my father. So HaHu Jobs is like the first letters of the alphabet, but I would be arrogant to claim it for myself because it wasn't me. It was at that time we had a partner called Iskender who came up with that title, but I agreed with the definition because HaHu was the first two letters of the Ethiopian alphabet. And we were the first ones doing data-driven job matching. I believe so. I mean, to this day, we still are. But there are some kind of digital solutions after our kind of presence in the market, which I think is a good impact in general. Like, we're teaching the market on how to do stuff the right way. So
I don't want to laugh about this.
Okay. So in a way, it's a data-driven job matching. It was first of its kind, so we kind of named it after the first two letters of the Ethiopian alphabet, which we're proud of as a nation, and one of the few languages that actually has alphabet to kind of describe what there is, and that would be a rabbit hole.
Definitely. You mentioned the standard, and I heard you even before talking about the standard, and it is something that you dwell on a lot. Tell me the core concept of it and where we deviate. Or if we are aligning to what is actually the real standard of things. And what are we talking about when we say standards?
Yeah. So we're talking about technology and labor in general, right? Yeah. So it really is hard to automate that is not something off standard because it would make it and like very unpredictable, something you would not understand, and it really it just comes down to if you don't have a standard, it's really hard to automate because even manufacturing, the first thing that the lines of manufacturing would be to have those production manuals where you would have a specific set of standards for you to do that a million times, and automation. And I mean, digitization is a form of automation as well. So unless you have that specific standard, it really is hard to automate. So with that as a foundation of understanding, or as something that should drive labor market, in Ethiopia, we have yet to define our own occupation standards to say, someone is an accountant in your office and then someone is an accountant in my office could totally mean different things because the amount of tools that they should be using, what they would do, who they deal with on a day-to-day basis, what kind of they're required to do should be defined on a set of skills and in what is essential skills, what is like an okay to have but not really an essential one, and what kind of technology and tools they should know should be nominal across whenever I'm talking about an accountant. Currently, we don't have that yet. Job seekers are open to being, manipulated. And as a country, it really is hard for us to map out what available resources that we have. Aside from we have so many job seekers, and then you see or hear this in so many ways. We have, youth, unemployed and stuff. Okay, in what sector did we train them? And then how many of them are in what sector and how many of them are in what qualification levels in order for us to kind of map out what the labor capacity of Ethiopia has, right? So yes, it's true. It's like it's a no-brainer that we have so many unemployments, but in what areas? Because most of them have went through in some way, in some formal education, right? Have we traced that? Do we have a standard to identify that? And these are the things that I'm very much passionate about, and that's basically why HaHu Jobs exists. So I want to define standards, occupational standards as a nation, which is, the Europeans has one, the US has one. The US called it UONET, and the European one is ESCO. Since ESCO is based on the ISCO, which is ILO kind of defined standards, we're trying to kind of have an Ethiopian version of, an occupational standard, which kind of could serve publications on how to map at least the demand side of vacancies, because we've been aggregating vacancies for the past 5 years. That's the most we have data on. So we can start with that. And then I think starting last year, February, which is 2024 February, we also started, indexing and defining job seekers in that sense of data formats, which would eventually help us to what are the primary KPIs that we need to have, what are the skill sets, and what are the ways of defining education we need in order for you and I to have a uniform format for us. For us to compare that talent or qualification levels that we may have between us. So what I'm saying is, if we have a standard for vacancies or our demand side, and then if we have a standard for our supply side, meaning if you and I are defined in a set of parameters like our education level, our field of study, our skills. So it really is easy for us to to compare what we can bring to a specific job description or to a specific demand. And then it's really easy for a company to compare you and I if that information is available and exists for every applicant they have. Instead of basing their decision on a simple interview or an exam, which is very shallow, because you may not be feeling well. You may be a really great orator that I could ever be, but that day was just simply not feeling well, and then I may get the job and I may suck at it. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, if we have standard in identifying skills, talent, and we have a set of standard parameters to identify talent, that would be one way. And then for the demand side as well, on how to define occupations and how to define roles for a specific company, and then you have a really good playing ground to kind of compare talent. And then this also goes to nationwide, because you can now map out what is, what's the most employing sector, and who should we support in terms of policy, and what kind of available talent that we have to export, and what kind of talents don't have in order for us to kind of train. So a lot of things can come out of that playground, but someone has to start doing that. Yes, as a private company, it's very crazy to do that, but yes, we're in that business now, and we've been doing it for the past 5 years.
Crazy as in making money crazy, or crazy as in making a lot of money, but still
crazy as in the level of ambition, level of work that it requires. We're just making a dent at it just so far. And as a nation, as large as an Ethiopian nation, it's a huge undertaking as
absolutely
kind of thing. And of course, you would have business models built around it. But for people to have that same agenda and understand what you're after, and then actually confirming to what you're trying to do, takes a really long time. And in Ethiopia, it takes decades. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I kind of described as this is a crazy amount of work that we signed up for.
So as someone who's really interested in the labor market, and who want to actually dedicate huge amount of time to know what it is and what elements are in there. I'm talking about myself. What are the things I should know?
I mean, that's a very hard question, because it really depends on what area and what specific kind of direction you want to steer your understanding and knowledge of. But I think primarily one should understand education standards and qualification standards. One should understand what skills are and how skills are grouped in order for them to be positions in a specific in a specific kind of job, or in other definitions, like you need to understand what occupations are. And one needs to understand how skills are mapped, like why skill mapping is important in order to kind of profile an individual. And the other aspect is also the demand side. We need to have specific, or someone needs to understand, even as an HR kind of officer, need to understand those specific roles that the company needs, and then compare it to what the standards are, like what kind of standards or best practices are out there in order for you to kind of define that role in a more, agreeable or a standardized way. Because you can define your accountant as a secretary, not knowing that's not a role of an accountant. So having that specific roles and responsibilities, and then having it a referential point on, it could be nationwide or globally, to how does that stand on what I want? Because like you may be defining a role that may need two people, and then kind of confirming it into two. So for someone in that labor sector, I would say understanding occupation standards, skill mappings, where the current directions are going in terms of the labor tech, because now skill-based hiring is becoming a thing. Because before, with simple qualifications, you can do a lot of things at the office, but now not so much, because a lot of things are being specialized. So understanding skill mappings would give you a really good edge in terms of where the labor markets or the labor kind of is being steered to. It could be as a nation, or it could be globally as well, because job has a different definition before our fathers, for us, and then the kids to come for us. Because working from a laptop at home would have been a crazy kind of statement made in the 90s or 80s, because there was an entire attire for it, a dress code for it, briefcases for it. So it's understanding, but skills haven't changed. They just expanded and then kind of blew up after the technology involvement in a lot of sectors as well. So understanding that understanding occupations, and also and understanding both there is a supply and demand side for it, would serve best for someone that is kind of having an eagle eye kind of perspective on that specific sector. But if you're a researcher, if you're trying to identify gaps and improving a certain challenge, then you need to go deeper in each kind of variables or components that are out there that pertains to what you're trying to achieve.
How would you measure the pace of change that we are experiencing today in relation to job or work, or anything that has to do with jobs? Because you mentioned that the definition of jobs in the 90s and in the 80s is totally different from today, what it is today. The advent of technology brought a lot of things, and what your grandfather knows about jobs or work or anything that is related to work is non-existent today, I believe. Or for someone who used to work in these industries, if he or she happened to have a grandkid and happened to meet that grandkid today at his work setting, that person wouldn't understand what is happening in that area. So I'm really afraid as to the pace, and I sometimes question myself, what is my kid going to be engaged in? What is the kind of work that he'll be having? I'm absolutely confused as to what I should advise him to pursue. For example, I see sometimes his interests, the interest that they have, and I think that I say they should follow this and that, and after a week or a month, I find myself blaming my own decisions that I made back then. So
Yeah.
tell me about the pace, because you are in the sector at the heart of it. I believe you have a better judgment and expertise than I am, or
Yeah.
other people have.
I mean, to be completely honest, it really is hard to have a right opinion on something of the future because it's really there is a lot of factors that could affect it.
Yeah.
But we can talk about the evolutions of work in general, because in the 80s and 90s, the Industrial Revolution kind of changed how we approached work in general, because a lot of labor or manual work used to be a human contribution to any kind of job or occupation in the medieval areas, and resources were sought after in terms of like produce of agriculture, and then that gave rise to commerce and yada yada. And then that kind of became obscure and abstracted, and we had offices for what is being manufactured and being sold across the globe. And even the manufacturing started to be automated after the industrial kind of revolution. So a lot of machines were involved. Even we can talk about the steam machine invention and stuff, and I really don't want to go through history of how these things came to be. But I'm just giving you the gist of like how jobs are evolving. And then at the start of technology, a lot of things even further became abstracted. You didn't need a typewriter at the office that you need to kind of hack at in order for you to kind of produce something. You could just do it on your computer and then hit print, and then a printer that was kind of digitized would print it. But before, there was print kind of transfer printing methods, and there was, a lot of sophistication to even printing something. So what I'm saying is a lot of those things became abstract kind of contexts. And then now you don't even have to print it, right? You can just save it as a PDF and mail it. You know what I mean? So all of these abstractions and advancements in technology kind of shaped or kind of increased the abstract concept that is now we call a job or a specific occupation. Even the skills required to kind of contribute on those aspects became, a lot more sophisticated and advanced. So after the Industrial Revolution, something I would say a lot of things remained the same. It's just that you needed to know a bit more tricks than you did before, because you needed to understand what a printer was. You needed to learn how to type on a computer, not a typewriter, you know what I mean? And all of these things kind of advanced. But now our generation would have to face AI, which is artificial intelligence. So I'm not I'm not from the realm of those technology people that is fanatic about AI. I just have a balanced kind of visions about it. A lot of repetitive and mundane tasks would definitely be automated, as has been for the past years, because for the Industrial Revolution, a lot of manual work was changed into machines. Because in a different panel, I think it was in Berlin, I was asked about it as well. Because, when New York got rid of the horses, we didn't lose the stables and whatever not. They just turned into a freaking garage. And then, they got into a more, broader and a more wider kind of industry where you are required to have a lot of knowledge about combustion engines and mechanics and all of those things. And I would believe AI has the capacity to do that, because a lot of repetitive and mundane tasks like responding to an email, booking an appointment, and all of those things would definitely be automated through AI. And a lot of these repetitive kind of purchasing something, and in manufacturing, for example, there is a huge assembly line for vehicles, right? One of the things that China is becoming the leading kind of manufacturer in EV is not only their discovery or their capacity to produce batteries. It's also complete automation of automotive factories. I think they're the only ones that have now achieved dark factories, meaning since there's no human being there, they can have literally dark spots like robot arms working to kind of produce these things. So if you are someone that was in the line of that assembly, definitely you'll lose that job. But I think you would evolve into maintaining those arms because eventually they're man-made and then wear out, and then you would need to kind of maintain them as well. So that's what I'm saying. So there would be an evolution or a transition on each sector. If we kind of go deep down in each sector, there will be that sort of evolvement. So I think one thing I would say would change our work or our reality as we see it would be AI, because I think revolution that stems from it are right around the corner, because you see a lot of impact in the basis of it. So mundane, repetitive tasks that doesn't require a lot of balanced kind of perspectives would definitely be automated. A lot of, for example, I can give you an example, like in graphics designing, for example, is a skill. If you want something authentic and very much human-like, you would go to a certain graphics designer. But, the same thing happened to food. If you want to just fill up your stomach, you can go to the next McDonald's, or you can book a really good dining experience at the fanciest restaurants you can think of. So McDonald's would definitely be automated and would have a robotic-like experience where you'd feel like you're just there to have food, but this one would have an experience. So I think that's I think the direction that will be going eventually. So if you want a really good graphics design for your podcast to have a really good thumbnail, you go to a really good graphics designer. But if you just need it for a post or something, you just type something or type a prompt on an AI and then just post whatever felt good and modify it. So I think that would be the direction that we're going at, and AI would have a lot to do with it. And in terms of use of AI as well, there would be quite a lot of changes into the work environment. We may no longer have receptionists because there's an easier, but those receptionists may be required to kind of have a certain part in having a presence in meetings and stuff, what I mean? So these sort of things, I would say, would kind of shape and define kind of sectors. But as a parent, if I'm allowed to make a comment on it, since I've never raised a child or never have a family except being part of one, I would say offering as much opportunity as possible as a parent would be one's responsibility. Like exposing them to as much kind of diverse kind of thing would be the right thing to do, because like I said, foundations matter than any directions or curated or prescribed directions you may have. Just exposing them to as much as would be a really great direction. So what I would say is like, if at some point I raised a child, my direction would be exposing them, hey, look, this exists to, hey, look, this exists to kind of approach would be my direction in general. So that would be my long kind of perspective in this thing.
Amazing. So exposing the kids to all the opportunities in the world, I would assume would require resources, a lot of money. So I'm sticking to the point of making money or creating wealth. And to do that, obviously you need to work. So the concept of labor or job is still in there. There is a hero of mine, a person I admire a lot, Naval Ravikant, and he talks about wealth and work in a lot of his interviews. And I heard him say wealth creation or something of value creation should be not something that you engage in. It should be something that works, that produces value while you're sleeping or while you're away, while you're vacationing. Is that something that you agree with?
I mean, that's his definition. I'll definitely say.
The reason I'm asking you this question is because earlier on you mentioned that your dad wakes up in the morning and there is a routine where he has his canvas wiring and doing all those kind of things, and in the middle of he's doing that, someone would call him to eat his breakfast, and this is an everyday occurrence.
Yes.
So coming from that environment and having that as a background, how would you imagine having all things delivered to you while you're not working so much?
Yeah. I mean, let's look at it in two ways. Like exposing someone is usually to the scope of their curiosity. Like your child will not be interested in everything in the world. I mean, it's humanly impossible, right? Like he cannot be interested in everything. Of course, I mean, technology is taking a shot at it because of the screens that we have in every home that we have. But I'm speaking about like whatever he's curious of, and of course, whatever access that you have, exposing them or exposing your child in that regard is one way of like building that foundation. And I'm not saying it's the only one, because discipline matters, and that's where I think I would link to the point that you raised. What I learned from those dedications are like discipline. You can be wealthy. In order for you to keep being wealthy, you need to have that discipline of not utilizing your wealth irresponsibly. Right? You can invest in irresponsible things like crypto and then lose your entire kind of wealth. Right? So what I'm saying is, yes, wealth is important, and then the way of building it is also an interesting kind of context. You can work for it, or you can inherit it. I mean, you can be in the right house at the right time. That's also one way of like.
That's not what the guy is saying.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is, wealth creation is it can be done in so many ways. There's no formula to it, is what I'm saying. So what I follow is that if someone is true to their craft, if someone is true to their passion, and they're dedicated to achieve some results and have the discipline to keep hacking at it every single day until they see a certain result, I think that would be my way of wealth creation. And then that's what I learned from my father. And that's what I would preach in that format. And I respect wealth should be something that you would be acquiring, or something making you money or resources while you're asleep and that sort of thing. I understand that, but it really depends on the interest of someone. What if I'm bored doing that? You know what I mean? Like, for example, that's not the future that I want for my kid, let alone myself. You know what I mean? Because I want to work hard, because there's satisfaction in achieving something, and having the discipline and having the consistency to kind of work hard and achieving there and getting there. We're at a point where I'm no longer able to work for something that I'm sought after. Then yes, that would be nice to have. Like,
I just want to interrupt you. I don't like doing that, the interruption thing. But I don't want to. I want to do justice to the point of Ravikant when he said wealth creation, or the ideal way of gaining money or wealth, is having something that works for you while you are sleeping or away in vacationing or things of that sort. He's not saying that you become idle or you don't work or something like that. For example, we have this podcast. We publish it. And people watch it at their convenience. It could be during the nighttime or the daytime. There is a YouTube partnership, and we make money out of it, irrespective of our presence around it. So this is one way of getting money. So this guy is not actually talking or saying these things against the thinking that working hard does not have any value. But what he is trying to say is be passionate about something. This is the points that he was making actually. Find something that you like, work, and in your work or at your work, be that person who enjoys it all the time. And if that is something that some people are actually trying to achieve value from or gain value from, and they're actually working hard in a literal sense, and you're liking it, if it is your passion, that means that is what it is that you should do. So you can sleep and you can get value, you can get money, wealth creation would go that way. I'm butchering most of the points that he said, but this is the general concept. So would you agree to this?
I'm like, it's really hard, like, because it's a definition, and that's his definition. And as someone that is not familiar with what he said and haven't read most of the points, and if you're asking me to agree based on the information that you just relayed, I would say I would just need a bit more information to make up my mind. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm saying.
And
but
just one sentence. Just one sentence. Would you be okay to sleep knowing that money is coming because of something that you did the other day?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of owning a business is part of it, because I'm not always there for some of the things that goes on in my offices, which, you know, it's kind of a generic definition of like establishing a business, or, you know, even investing in a trust fund and whatever not. So what I'm saying is, like, are we talking about the definition of wealth, or are we talking about his way of like portraying what wealth is in general? So it's kind of something that agree or disagree with. It's someone's opinion. I understand where he may be basing this on. Do I have enough information to kind of make up my mind about that? Not per se, because I just heard his name from you. So in terms of wealth and resources as well, if you're good at something, eventually, I mean, I'm talking about eventuality of things, then there will definitely be value created by you that, you know, people are willing to share or expend their resources on, because they need that specific value on there. So do I agree on the model that he described? Yes. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. The whole point of you know, establishing a business is like for you not to be there whenever things are you know, are being done in your office or in your kind of presence. But I definitely agree that is a definition of what wealth could be while you're not working, and maybe, you know, having a way of like acquiring kind of wealth. I agree. But would I agree that would be the definition of wealth? Well, that's where I would have a bit of a reservation on that, because, you know, wealth has so many definitions. Because during Imperial Britain, definitely they acquired a lot of wealth. I mean, is that the right way to go about it? Is questionable. Is that wealth exist? Yes, it does. I mean, it's the very much foundation of what resource and commerce could be. So what I'm saying is, like, wealth can have a lot of you know, definitions in different perspectives and contexts. So in terms of an entrepreneurial kind of direction, yes, I agree with you. And that should be the way. Like, any business should operate irregardless of anyone that created it, and it should be able to grow irregardless of someone that kind of created it as well. So that is something that I share as my journey as an entrepreneur.
Fantastic. Okay, just a simple point. Because you are in that area, that sphere of work. I have to make this point, and I have to know your perspective. Would you be willing just to get money or to get any kind of thing that you want in life without working?
It depends how bad I want it. Because I mean, usually, like, needs arise from necessities. So, like, really, if it's something that I'm in a situation where I really need that specific resource that I'm so like going after, I mean, I may do anything to acquire it. I think that's also one of the entrepreneurial mindsets that you need to have in order for you to kind of keep doing business, or a functioning business at least. But in terms of morality, and then if I can have it the other ways, but I don't know. Like, I don't think I would be comfortable in something that I haven't earned. You know, like. But then I don't want to be caught as a hypocrite when I'm trying to, you know, so that's why I said, like, really depends on the context and how bad I want that specific thing. I'm sorry if I'm overcomplicating.
No, you're not. You're
but
not.
it's not a simple answer.
Yeah,
It's
no, you're not.
You know, it's the point. That's why I wanted to talk to you. Like whenever we discussed, we talked about education as well. So part of education is having this balance of things. Whenever you're confronted with, you know, a certain choices or a certain kind of like deliberation that you need to make, I think education plays a huge role in giving you different perspectives in order for you to kind of make the right choice. So that's why what I'm saying. Yeah, your question is really good, but it lacks context on my situation. Let
me give you this.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking you this question is people that are in your industry, entrepreneurs, including Elon Musk and the others.
Yeah.
The ones that are there actually making a big name for themselves, and they're advocating the point of universal basic income.
Mm-hmm.
So with the advent of technology and AI being what it is today, and they have this assumption that it will replace every work in the world. So their solution of actually maintaining a peaceful world is people will get money regardless of the contribution or the value that they bring. They can be given money and they can get whatever they want. And you made the points in relation to it being moral or not. And that is one thing we can talk about or we can discuss. But if that world is about to come, where you're not required to go to the office or you don't need to have a computer because there is that robot arm that you talked about earlier, providing every value, and it is making everything that you have to contribute, valueless.
Yeah.
Then would you be able to accept that money? That's the money that I'm talking about.
Yeah. And it's not even a new world. I mean, Qatar does this. Saudi Arabia does this. There's because of the amount of wealth they acquire, being a small country and all, and everybody gets paid, right? And yet, Qatar didn't, close up shop and said like, no, let's stay in bed now, and let the oil money come. You need to stay relevant, and I don't think that would be a world that I would be happy in, of course. And then that's due to the way I was raised, my background, and the way I was taught to value certain things in life. And work and hard work and also discipline in work being at the center of it. I don't think that would be a world that I would be happy in. And this Ethiopia of worlds, there are nations that are almost at the verge of it. And it's a really good example that even doing that would not end an ambition of a human. If we can conquer like every aspect of this world, I think you mentioned Elon Musk in a lot of context, so it's time I kind of mention him as well.
Yeah.
One of his directions and most of the components that he's working on is to enable life in Mars, which is, something, it tells you something about human ambitions and a never-ending kind of need to kind of aspire for things. And I think that's the way we're wired. So what I'm saying is, yes, I may not be happy in that kind of world, and but I'm definitely confident that I would not be alone in that context. So
I would
say it's like I would have friends at least. That would agree with me.
I doubt that.
Yeah,
I doubt that. In Ethiopia,
why? I don't know, man. Like human aspirations are like in Ethiopia. Yes, we're an African country. We're poor. That world of Ethiopia seems unachievable. It therefore seems like a haven or something that you would end to operate on. But I'm telling you, Qatar was not a rich country when it started. Back in the imperial world, it was one of the poorest kind of countries until Uncle Sam discovered oil in Qatar and made sure there is that payment that is offered for a really small population. It's like Eritrea discovering massive deposits of oil. And think about what we would do to that, like small population that exists. So really it's hard for me to think that, that would be the end of it. that, like, okay, we discovered unlimited wealth and there's nothing anymore that we could do, you can also look at UAE, Dubai. They're turning it into a huge amusement park. That's the way I see that world as well, because like unnecessarily large buildings and stuff. I mean, technically achieving not a lot. You know what I mean? It's I think human ambitions. Whenever you have unlimited kind of resources, I think it's actually a really good recipe for innovation. I think it's a really good innovation to kind of inspire ambitions, a lot of different way of like looking at things, because the basics are fulfilled now. But here in Ethiopia, for someone that is aspiring for their next lunch, the world that you just described seems like a heaven, like the end of it, But for someone that has a different perspective and foundation, or whose reality from the day they were born is having unlimited wealth coming into the house, of course they would look into the world to contribute something or look for something else. Yes, some people would be content. I agree. But like I said, some people will not, and then I would have friends and I would be among them, is what I'm saying.
Weird kind of friends.
Still. Yeah. I mean, I'm putting a premise of saying,
yeah.
And then it's not even unfounded kind of basis. I have, an example that exists in, like I said, like the United Arab Emirates and stuff, and the Qatars of the world are really prime examples of like poor to rich in a few decades. You know what I mean? I would wait for the day the Qataris just stay there. Now everyone's staying at home because they're rich now, unlimited kind of thing. Because of course they would aspire for something. I think that's why a lot of investments in the USA is made by a lot of Qataris. Right? That explains the Al Jazeera. That explains a lot of parking lots in the US investment, like owned by Qatar investors. So what I'm saying is, if the world is too huge to be content,
absolutely,
in that regard.
I mean, that's a great example. I never saw it from that angle. And yeah, these countries could be a great example. Although we cannot assume that people living in these countries, Qatar included, even the nationals, the natives, may not be having that opportunity to actually amass a wealth that can be, called in excess sometimes. But okay, let's come back to Ethiopia. So we're talking about technology. We're talking about the advent of technology, the likes of AI, and some of the suggestions that are coming, not only for the Ethiopia or countries in Africa, in the third world, but every country in the world. Every seminar or summits that I attend to or I listen to are suggesting that we reskill and upskill people. What is your take on that?
Reskilling really needs a context. For what purposes? Because like I said, it really is important to map out what's already available out there in order for us to say, okay, we have excess of this, so we need to reskill them to this. And in countries like in Ethiopia or any African country, we lack that understanding and that data in order for us to even have those plans. Like, we need to reskill these individuals. Okay, you could say that in any given context, but the devil is in the details. Like, in what sector? Why? In what level? What level of reskilling are we talking about? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And then this usually draws blank because any African countries, including or like low income countries like Ethiopia, we didn't do a good job of mapping what's already available as a resource. It's not only in labor capacity, even production capacities, in arable lands, and all of those things have yet to be mapped out clearly in order for us to kind of have these deliberations on like we need to scale or rescale kind of thing. But in general, do we have lack or challenges in terms of quality of education? Yes, we've been seeing that for the past 40 years. And I've said this before as well, because the direction that we took was of quantity, not quality. And then if you're producing subpar kind of talent in order for you to fuel whatever economy that was functioning 20 years ago or 25 years ago, that needs to change, because the world has kind of evolved quite a lot from there. So in that sense, if you're saying, the quality of education hasn't been the best thus far, so we need to kind of upskill a few of them in these kind of areas, I completely agree. And that's what we should do. And our evidence actually supports it, because we have massive amounts of job seekers in Ethiopia that have a functioning college degree, which is very rare in the Western kind of countries, and yet they really don't have a job. So that tells you a lot about the quality of degree they're having. So that's kind of a deduction from what's available in terms of information, and what you can kind of assume or insinuate in this regard, if it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So upskilling in that regard, I definitely agree. And running HaHu Jobs for the past 5 years has also exposed us to a lot of data in terms of job seekers and what's available out there. Yes, that's why we have HaHu Muya, where we have this employment center and capacity building center, where we offer short-term trainings and that are very much digital oriented. So in terms of upskilling, I completely agree with you. Even the ones that already have a job need to upskill themselves in that regard. And speaking of the cusp of AI kind of revolution as well, someone needs to be in the game for them to kind of contribute in that regard. So yes, upskilling is definitely required, and understanding the details of it and which country needs what and in what sector and in what capacity should be the next conversation that should be had, is what I'm saying. But reskilling is a bit of an expensive endeavor. Reskilling in what? Are we giving new degrees now? Or is it, are we saying that, all of this education is no longer kind of relevant for you, so now we need to do, because we're talking about age as well. And we're talking about whenever you take it to the human aspect, it's a really hard pill to swallow. All of you've been doing in your life, is wrong. So here is a flip side, So that
it's not in that sense. It's not in the sense of that being wrong, but it being obsolete. So because it's obsolete, you don't need to dwell on that, and you need to actually get a training of 1 or 2 months. And try this thing. I know the challenge. I know the hurdle in accepting that. For example, the lady or the person you mentioned as a receptionist, coming in the meeting hall and serving people whatever they need to be served is another thing. So she need to understand the context of the meeting hall as opposed to the one that the experience she had outside that. So.
True.
Just tweaking it a bit in that regard.
So like evolving them, or kind of I guess readjusting the set of skills that they require in order to do that. Yes, somewhat of a category or a type of reskilling. I can definitely get behind that. But in terms of obsolescence, I don't know. I mean, yes, for example, cobblers may not be needed now. Yet we have them. And because there is massive amount of shoe production companies based in China or any Bangladesh or any Asian kind of company, but still cobblers in the UK get paid quite significant amount of money to make shoes. So cobblery is still a thing. Definitely one can make the argument of saying, no, it's an outdated kind of craft. But no, it just became something rare. So what I'm saying is there are skills that need to be kept that are in this kind of format. I would always want to have that balanced kind of perspective on what's irrelevant and what should be relevant. And as a human race as well, like I said, I'm a huge advocate of human-centric kind of designs for anything, and then we need to appreciate, cultures. We need to appreciate the values of what exists. That's why I think we have museums all over around the world, so that to remind us where what came from. And I think we talked about knowledge a lot, so I'm going to talk about wisdom now, and then I think that's where wisdom kind of stems from. So there are some kind of skills that need to be enhanced in order for them to contribute to current realities, and then there are some that needs to say the same, so that they can help us remind on how things used to be done. And that's why I think we still visit castles as a recreational kind of activity. And that's in that sense, that's what I would say. But yes, I'm very much romanticizing the concept of reskilling and reskilling. But I agree with your point. Yes, there should be a lot of reskilling in the wake of the current technology advancements that we have. And also there should be some kind of evolving some of the individuals that used to work in a certain role, kind of advancing them to new roles that technology might have kind of produced. And AI is one that requires massive amount of data, which we currently lack in Ethiopia or anything. That's why whenever you prompt it to put out any Amharic text, it comes up with this bizarre kind of shit kind of thing.
Terrible.
So this tells you that there is a lack of contribution in the AI that we're so keen to kind of interest. And in a way, I feel like we're not doing our part to contribute to that world. And then that has to start with data collection. That's the principle that we built HaHu Jobs on. And those receptionists may be reskilled into encoding data so that we can train models to serve us better than AI generated not so great Amharic texts. So
yeah. So this concept of human capital, and it's becoming a buzzword these days, and in the context of Africa or the third world regions or countries in the third world, it's according to the definition of the United Nations. So how you categorize the areas of the world shouldn't be that way, in my opinion. But in this poor part of the world, especially Africa and Ethiopia in particular, they kind of portray development in human capital would actually transform the continent and the countries in this continent into better countries. I have ideas about it, and I don't agree with the entire thing. But what is your take on that?
Categorization of like worlds in general?
No, human capital development.
Human capital development. Yeah, I mean, human capital can be defined for the purpose that you're mobilizing them. Are we mobilizing them for, I don't know, for economic or productive purposes? So in the need for the human capital, and in the way of like categorizing or identifying human capitals, I think one should look at birth rates of whichever region they're trying to look at. And I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, the African birth rate has been always the highest. We've managed to curb, that kind of graph, I think, in the 90s in the Ethiopian context, which is, I'm talking about the Gregorian calendar, which is a good thing. But human capital goes hand in hand with educating as well. One can be a capital where there is areas they can contribute on. In a world where there is a lot of automation, if you're capitalizing on muscle building, then there's that, it really is hard to kind of consider it as human capital building. So it should drive with purpose, is what I'm saying. So human capital in the context of what you need to mobilize, I think African countries and most of the Asian world is very blessed in having a young workforce to kind of shape into whatever economic endeavors that we want them to, or whatever vice they're being shaped into. So in that contrast of things, I would say, human capital and development should focus on the purpose of the nation, and then eventually contributing to the globe's need. Eventually, I think all of these countries and divisions, given the limited resources the world has to offer, eventually this categorization, these countries and nations and stuff, I think as we advance would become kind of an elusive concept, because there would come a time where a lot of the things would be balanced. Whatever you need from this country would be balanced from this. So all of them would be a location to just work from. So what I'm saying is, until that time comes, I may not see that in the world, but it seems like human capital can be developed as such to that level. You can develop it to serve a scoped version of it for a nation or a continent, or then globally in terms of understanding what the world needs at that point in time. So capital development needs a reference point in terms of like development or economical needs, or at least a purpose to kind of amass that capital version of it. But Africa, I would definitely say, has a lot to offer because of our young population across the globe in comparison to what's available out there, because most of the Western world is aging, and that's not news to anyone. So that's a huge advantage for the African youth to serve as human capital, to serve whatever needs or economic kind of needs that exist out there.
Okay, it was not in my question list to ask you about this, but I'm really interested to know about this. I just want to know what your routine is. Do you read? How do you spend your time? When you have a spare time, what do you do?
Yeah, man. Spare time is a very elusive concept.
No, I mean,
when you're running a business in Ethiopia. But what's beautiful about my work is that it just gives me a balance of understanding of sectors, because I work with Ministry of Health, I work with Ethiopian Investment Commission, I work with Ministry of Labor and Skills. You get to work with a lot of these government organizations that gives you insight into things that you need to contribute on. What I'm good at is doing well-researched things. So and I would say I was very lucky to be in the sector that I'm in, which is technology and software development agency, that it exposed me to a lot of variables that I should be aware of in order for me to contribute technologically to whatever they're asking me to achieve. So my routine usually revolves around understanding what I'm required to do, which in turn kind of requires me to read a lot of literature on different topics. So my routine usually starts out with a bit of workout, because someone needs to maintain a certain health balance in order to deal with the stress that the Ethiopian commercial environment throws at you. And then I usually go to meetings. I mean, I think after a certain years, like, there's a lot of going to meetings that I really don't want to be part of, but I have to, kind of thing. And then most of them are strategizing, and most of them are asking what our capacities are, what we could do. Most of them are planning and strategizing and all of that. And then after that, I go back to the office, which is kind of my favorite part, where I get to do things. Like, I get to write about things. It could be a report, or it could be a proposal, or I'm kind of co-writing with with one or two of my employees, designing and all of those things that would happen at the office. It's just, I'm telling you what happens at the office. And then if I ever went to HaHu Jobs, and HaHu Jobs has a more scoped kind of direction, meaning like, everything there is predictable.
All right.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, my daily routine kind of involves waking up, a bit of exercise, and then going to the office, like one of the HaHu Jobs or MinabTech, and then
anything you regret?
In what sense?
I have to define this. In regards to your work, maybe Having all these things to juggle, and you mentioned the stress, and I don't believe that is an ideal state of situation or circumstance to be in. So, is there any time or position that something puts you in, and think back on the time that you had another opportunity, but you evade that opportunity and you are who you are today? So in that regard, something that could alleviate your stress or something in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, not a lot of people would say this openly, but I would say I think I have failed in terms of defining a business processes at my businesses that wouldn't require most of my presence. So yes, some aspects of my business can run without me, but I don't think they can grow without me. So that's a predicament that I had to deal with. So would I regret that? Of course, but with limited kind of understanding resources that I had to learn from and then eventually adapt, I don't think it's something that I could avoid. That's the kind of the thing that I come back. And the stress, I mean, if it was easy, like it's always a common saying, like if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So the stress comes from the difficulty of doing things, right? So what I'm saying is, in like this stress, of course, it's part of the business. It's part of the human element to it. Of what you do, and it's a strive to achieve something better always. So yes, as a byproduct, stress comes as an effect to it, and yeah, man, I actually thrive in that environment, and I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I didn't have ways to cope with it. So yeah, I don't think I would see it as a regret. The only regret that I have is like until this point not having a business or operations that could grow without my presence.
Oh, that's a wonderful point. Okay. I'm really interested in talking about the whole point in relation to labor and technology, but I don't think we'll be talking about it today. But one last point I want you to say something about is the end goal. What's next for Kaleab?
It's actually having, like, we currently have HaHu Jobs as a product, and I told you about this. We started this Fanos and LMS for education. I really wanted to do my part in terms of like the Ethiopian education sphere in general. So it's our way of like teaching someone in the modern context with the distractions and with the technology that is. I feel like we have a foundation on how to go about that, and then I just want to have what's next for Kaleab would be like, I just want to have a footprint on this demanding needs of this nation, and then I have something to contribute. I contributed in the labor markets and lack of jobs for the youth. I was one, and I kind of found my way in a certain way. And for education as well, it seems to be a great challenge, and I think it has been magnified the past 3 or 4 years as well. And I want to contribute in other sectors that the nation also struggling, or where I can benefit the larger mass. So what's next for me is always what's required in any given sector in Ethiopia that needs technological intervention I could do something about. So that would be it. Currently my focus is on now technology and education. It was the past 5 years. It was I think I've set the tracks for HaHu Jobs, and then I don't know, there would be some endeavors or a product that would I don't know, that could use my intervention in, and then that would be the next goal.
I take it you have hopes.
Yeah, I definitely hope for a better Ethiopia that gets along, and then we move out of this kind of predicament that we're in different kind of contexts. And I really don't want to get political about it, but I just hope for a conducive environment where any individual can aspire to be what they want or what they dream to be, And then I just dream and hope about that Ethiopia. I may not be able to see it, but that's my hope.
You're young. You'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
All right, Kaleab, this has been a very amazing interview.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed all part of it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Amazing.